Chapter 281, Demon King of Salvation 3. Jung Hee-won muttered, "Dokja Sesai." Beyond the glare of Kim Dokja's light, the huge eye was looking down at the world. The moment she faced this eye, Jung Hee-won's entire body trembled. The ground was distorted and shook like a tsunami was approaching. The 73rd demon realm is crying out with pain. Lava burst from the broken crust, and the overflowing heat once again disappeared into the empty stomach. The whole world was becoming narrower around the industrial complex. Then it was obvious what would have happened to the other industrial complexes. The transcendent magic power amplified by the story moved. It was unreasonable to directly oppose that but the seismic waves could be slowed. "Quickly, you stupid disciple!" Kyojios shouted, and the space beyond the walls of the industrial complex distorted. The horizon was swallowed up by a huge fog and disappeared into the darkness. No, it wasn't the horizon any longer. Nevertheless, Jung Hee-won didn't release her string of hope. If what she heard was right, the teachers and Kim Dokja had already predicted this situation. "Ajasi, what the hell is this?" Jiak Yungyong's body disappeared, and Kyojios and the Breaking the Sky Sword Saint were in a poor state. However, Kim Dokja hadn't acted until the situation became this bad. Kim Dokja's lips moved as he constantly muttered something. His eyes moved quickly as he looked for something in the distant universe. Jung Hee-won realized it. Just as they hadn't given up, Kim Dokja hadn't given up either. Kim Dokja slowly came down towards the ground. Jung Hee-won shouted as a signal, "Get ready." Lee Hyun-sung used steel transformation and asked, "Dokja Sesai, what should we do?" Everyone was watching Kim Dokja. They didn't know what, but Kim Dokja would have something in mind. Kim Dokja slowly blinked and looked at the party members. Over the past few days, Kim Dokja gave many things to the party members. Lee Hyun-sung gained a new shield and Jung Hee-won got a new skill. Lee Jihai's magic power was strengthened, and Shin Yu-sung and Lee Gil-young learnt a large number of control skills. The party members believed it. The giant story, Demon World Spring, is moving for the owner of the story. If they had this giant story that they built together and the plan prepared by Kim Dokja, they would be able to knock down even the strongest enemy. They even destroyed Surya's train, even if this enemy came. Jussi. The earliest one to sense something unusual was Shin Yu-sung. There were rough sparks as Shin Yu-sung's knees sank downwards. Her body couldn't move, like there was a chain tied around her. This is the story of Dokja. The giant story that flowed from Kim Dokja's body became powerful shackles around the party members. Lee Hyun-sung was slowly sinking to the ground. His face was blank as he asked, "Dokja Sesai, what is this?" Kim Dokja's expression was still unreadable. He was there, but he didn't seem together with them. The party members thought they were all in this together, so why? Why did Kim Dokja seem to be there alone? There was no story that existed alone. Kim Dokja's king of a kingless world was linked to Yu Jonghyuk's, one who succeeded the name of the king, while Jung Hee-won's exclusion of future evil was linked to Kim Dokja's, one who showed contempt for a streamer. Not to mention the giant story that was a share in a larger story. The giant story, Demon World Spring, was of everyone who participated in the terrible battlefield. Nevertheless, at this moment, the Demon World Spring was only for Kim Dokja. The chief narrator of the giant story, Demon World Spring, has started his story. All the stakes in the giant story given to the party members were being controlled. The party members resisted using their stake in the giant story. Jung Hee-won, Yu Sanga, Lee Hyun-sung, Lee Gil-young, Shin Yu-sung. Even with all the shares they had, they couldn't defeat the gigantic will of a single person. It might have been different if Yu Jonghyuk was awake, but Yu Jonghyuk wasn't here now. Jung Hee-won sat on the ground and cried out painfully, "Wait, what is this? What the hell is this?" Jung Hee-won stared at Kim Dokja's expression and finally realized something. Before a looming crisis, Kim Dokja always made a certain expression. The corners of his lips curved slightly and he looked a bit unlucky, but it reassured the members. Now Kim Dokja's expression. "Why?" If you were going to do this anyway, why have you been preparing us for the past few days? Why give me these skills? At Jung Hee-won's desperate cry, Kim Dokja opened his mouth for the first time. I told you how to deal with the Sasquatch in the 28th scenario. Then my shield. It will be useful for catching the Algonquin snake in the 35th scenario. Don't forget your skills. Didn't I tell you all how to use it? As always, there was a reason for the arrangement. To the companions who were looking bewildered, Kim Dokja gave reasons one by one. Then this scenario. However, none of the arrangements were for this situation. The darkness was covering the horizon. Kim Dokja watched the darkness and spoke, I'll handle this situation. Shit, don't talk nonsense. Jung Hee-won shouted, I can't let you go, don't go alone again, please. It was impossible for Kim Dokja to deal with that thing alone. The two transcendents and Chiak Yungyong couldn't block it. There was no way Kim Dokja alone could face such a thing. I don't like this, Dokja Hyung. She grew stronger because she didn't want to be in debt to him like last time. She performed the hellish personal scenarios and frantically defeated monsters. Jung Hee-won shouted as she coughed up blood. It is you who said we couldn't do this alone. You were the one who gathered us. You told me all of this. An unfamiliar true voice flowed from the lips of the smiling Kim Dokja. I know. What do you know? The person who knows how. Still not now. Lee Hyun-sung screamed. I don't want this. I don't need this type of help. I'll die here. I'll die here with Dokja Sesai. Dying here. Kim Dokja, who was staring at the sky, lowered his gaze towards the party members. The constellation, Demon King of Salvation, is looking at the party. The party members heard the message. They looked at Kim Dokja's fluttering hair. They saw his long eyelashes, his eyes, his white cheeks and sadly distorted lips. Suddenly, they realized that Kim Dokja could exist in this world with such an expression. Please live. They listened helplessly like the true voice was a command. The Demon King of Salvation, is looking out. Kim Dokja's expression was changing. The sleeping power of the Demon King was awakening. The story Demon King of Salvation has begun. The stories of the 73rd demon realm started to gather around him. The white coat was stained black from the demonic energy, and two horns rose from Kim Dokja's head. It was the power of the Demon King transformation that only a Demon King could use. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, is looking at his friend. The constellation, abyssal black flame dragon, is paying homage to his adversary. The constellation, Goryeo's first sword, is making a furious yell. The constellation, supreme god of light, is watching the end of the 73rd demon realm. Dark feathers stretch from Kim Dokja's shoulders and reach towards the night sky. The second hand of the clock tower moved slowly and Kim Dokja soared. As if leaving this time, the Demon King of Salvation became a light and flew towards the sky. The moment Kim Dokja penetrated the expanse, thunder struck. A few thunderbolts poured down and the fog coming from the horizon stopped. It was as if time had stopped. The party members looked up at the night sky where Kim Dokja disappeared and couldn't breathe properly. Time continued passing on the incomplete clock tower. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. No matter how much time passed, Kim Dokja didn't come back. Jung Hee-won screamed, Kim Dokja. At almost the same time, the transcendents were thrown from the wall. The ragged breaking the sky sword Saint and Kyujo staggered and rose from their spot. The fog started eating the world again. It ate everything on the horizon and was nearing the walls. The walls were disintegrating. People screamed. Jung Hee-won was busy thinking, he can't stop it. Kim Dokja can't stop that. Fog covered the entire industrial complex. The next moment, Jung Hee-won felt her body being transmitted elsewhere. Yu Sanga closed her eyes like she had given up, and Lee Hyun-sung howled as he watched the sky. Han Myung-go sat down, and Gong Pildu guarded the destroyed castle. Everyone was leaking white sparks. Then everyone in the Yu Jonghyuk, Kim Dokja industrial complex were sent somewhere else. A threatening cry was heard from the fog like it was furious. Soon the darkness swallowed up everything. In the faint uproar, Yu Jonghyuk opened his eyes. The muscles of his body didn't move well. The aftereffects of recovery were big. He stared up at the cracked ceiling and took deep breaths to calm himself. Then he remembered what happened. There was the Demon King selection. He refused to regress. He fought with Kim Dokja and won against Surya. He thought about it and energy filled his head. They won, they had won. Magic power moved roughly through his body and he felt a bit dizzy. His senses slowly returned. He blinked once again and the scene around him gradually entered his eyes. It was a hospital room. He could feel the texture of a soft bed and his right hand touched something hard. Yu Jonghyuk raised his upper body with a groan and saw a small pocket watch wrapped around his arm with a watch strap. The moving hands of the clock were like his heartbeat. Yu Jonghyuk looked down at his watch. There was the faint glimmer of sunshine outside the window. The sunshine was too bright for the demon world. Yu Jonghyuk slowly rose and went to the window. Beyond the walls of the collapsed industrial complex, he saw a strange but familiar scene. The broken statue of Admiral Yi Sun-sin and the ruined Gyeongbok Palace. Smoke was coming from the collapsed buildings of Gwanghwamun. It was Seoul. He could see the party members sitting down outside the window. Yu Jonghyuk's head was confused. Why they were in Seoul? It was the entire industrial complex. Yu Jonghyuk looked at the party members with bewildered eyes. He didn't see a familiar face. Kim Dokja. The moment he muttered this, a message was heard. The story Life and Death Companions is silent. Yu Jonghyuk heard the message with a blank expression and stared at the window again. Not there, he couldn't be seen anywhere. Yu Jonghyuk looked up at the sky. The sky was bright enough that the light of the stars wasn't needed. He counted the light of the constellation beyond them. He counted and counted again. He didn't know. There were so many stars that he couldn't find the person. Yu Jonghyuk opened his mouth and spoke in a trembling voice. The item midday tryst has been used. The message window that hadn't been used for a while was opened, and a message was sent. The message has been returned. It must be an error. He sent the message repeatedly, several times over and over. He sent it, and sent it again. As the messages kept being returned, Yu Jonghyuk's gaze slowly lowered. Then finally, you have exhausted the quota for today's messages. There was a ticking pocket watch in the foreground, while messages filled Yu Jonghyuk's vision. The constellation Demon King of Salvation doesn't exist in the star stream. The constellation Demon King of Salvation doesn't exist in the star stream. The constellation Demon King of Salvation doesn't exist in the star stream. The constellation Demon King of Salvation doesn't exist in the star stream. The constellation Demon King of Salvation doesn't exist in the star stream. Chapter 282, Demon King of Salvation 4. The exclusive skill Fourth Wall is shaking violently. I didn't mean to do this in the beginning. The start was shortly after the battle with Surya. The day he gained a giant story and protected the demon world with his companions. 3 Ways to Survive in a Ruined World, 3rd Revision, TXT. I received the 3rd revision of Ways of Survival. When he opened his eyes, Yu Jonghyuk thought, it is the 4th regression. At first I read it with a light heart. I was looking forward to it. The current 3rd turn was more perfect than any of the turns that Yu Jonghyuk experienced. In the 25th scenario, I became a demon king and got a giant story. Maybe in this revision, the ending I wanted would be recorded. By the way, I thought it was going well. That's what that person said. Everyone was fine until the outer god appeared. Why? Yu Jonghyuk was different from the 1st and 2nd revisions. He lost his reason, was hasty, and didn't make plans. Yu Jonghyuk was seriously broken by something that happened in the 3rd round. On that day, everything in the 3rd round was over. I read this part and realized what was wrong. I looked at the black fog coming over the walls and bit my lips. The 4th wall wriggled in my head and spewed out sentences. Kim Dokja thought it might fail. I couldn't survive if I died this time. Now I didn't have my resurrection attribute. Once I was swallowed up by the outer god, I would be entirely wiped out. However, if I could stop him, I can't beat him no matter how I look through ways of survival. Han Suyong had told me that the Earth scenarios faithfully followed the original trajectory. If we passed this crisis safely, we could aim for areas of the original novel and head for the desired ending. Below the clock tower, my colleagues were looking up at me. No, there is one way, the failed method in the original. I just had to do it well. They have to live. They might not like it, but they have to live. I couldn't let anyone die. Only then will everyone be able to reach the ending. The night sky split apart, and I saw a giant eye looking down at the ground. The transcendence sank down while coughing up blood. Kyejios was already told the story in advance and shouted, "Quickly, you stupid disciple." I nodded and descended from the clock tower. I couldn't waste the time that Chiak Yungyong and the masters had earned. "I can't let you go. Don't go alone again, please." "Ariak, I don't like this, Dr. Hyung. It is you who said we couldn't do this alone. You were the one who gathered us. You told me all of this." I heard the cries of the party members and told them the necessary stories. Really, I really only told them what they needed. "Please live." My head tickled as horns emerged from it. My back was sore from the wings. I could hear the screams of Jung Hee-won and cries of Lee Hyun-sung. The children reached out for me. Yu Sanga, who heard the story from me in advance, couldn't take her eyes off me while crying. Yu Sanga would do things well. The moment I pushed off from the ground, my panoramic view changed. The grieving voices of the party members drifted away. Maybe I wanted to tell them something. "I want to see the ending with you." There was a sound as I pierced through the atmosphere, and the fog let out a pained scream. The constellation God of Wine and Ecstasy has dropped his glass. The constellation Queen of the Darkest Spring is letting out a deep sigh. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband wishes you good luck. Some constellations were worried about me. The constellation Commander of the Red Cosmos dislikes you. Some constellations are denouncing your actions. Some constellations criticized me. No one sponsored me any coins. Perhaps even the constellations knew. This wasn't a story for coins. Wiping his cheeks, Kim Dokja looked at the vast universe. The center of the fog. I could see the small scar made by Chiak Yungyong, the breaking the sky sword saint in Kyejios. I activated electrification and threw myself towards the scar. It was a method I would have never attempted if it was the original novel. However, now there was no other way. The outer gods didn't share their language with unqualified beings. The white pure star energy rose in my right hand while I raised unbroken faith. Demonic energy moved through the blood vessels in my body, and the black aura overlaid with the blue-white energy. A powerful shock wave burst from the center of the fog as the magic power in my right hand exploded. A very small gap opened for a moment, and I didn't hesitate. I entered the dark fog and the outer god was revealed. Like white blood cells that caught infecting bacteria, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of millions, countless particles looked at me at the same time. It was as if they were eyes. Indescribable distance, the nameless mist. It was the name of the disaster that drifted in the star stream. I opened my mouth towards that being. The great outer god. Strictly speaking, this mist wasn't the original form of the outer god. It was a terrible prototype. However, this alter ego contained enormous power. "Please, please leave." The particles pulsed at my words. Of course, I didn't expect words to work. The fog particles gathered around me started to eat at me. The giant story, Demon World Spring, is protecting your incarnation body. The fourth wall is protecting your spirit. The influence of the fourth wall kept me from falling in front of this vast existence. However, it was impossible to stop the giant story from being damaged little by little. The fog was talking in an unknown language. Perhaps I couldn't hear it properly even if it was interpreted. The indescribable distance was closer to an unconscious thing. It was a hungry predator that only used its instincts to follow the story. My presence grew thinner in the choking fog. Damn son of a bitch. Even Uriel descending couldn't stop this guy. It was the same for the current, the great sage, the equal of heaven, and the abyssal black flame dragon. It might be possible if all three came, but that wouldn't happen. There is only one thing that can help Kim Dokja now. An existence that didn't appear in ways of survival. There was only one thing that could possibly help me against this fog. The starlight could be dimly seen between the fog particles. I came all this way just to give him the right voice. Secretive plotter. The voice that was released with all its might penetrated the fog and crossed the interstellar space. The fog wriggled and roared as something shone from across the distant galaxy. I once again shouted, "I will make a outer world covenant with you." Yu Jonghyuk was unhappy every time he made an outer world covenant. It was because he couldn't afford it or had to fulfill a ridiculous contract. But this was the only way. This was the first and last way for me to live. The fog didn't start eating. It didn't stop eating me or the 73rd demon realm. I got a bad feeling as I saw the stories being broken. Could secretive plotter stop this guy? Time and space creaked and everything started slowing down. The overwhelming power was controlling all the time and space in the area. The fog cried out and the life activities of everything around me suddenly stopped. Like living creatures frozen in a glacier, they were trapped in that time forever. The next moment, I stood in an unknown galaxy. I looked down at my feet and saw the scene of the star stream. It was outside the star stream, the furthest place of the nebulae of stars. The numerous stars were shining beautifully at my feet. It is a boring sight. Unlike other outer gods, this voice was very sharp and clear. A shadow with a man's shape was wavering. I waited for you, the one pursuing the final chapter. A whiteness could be seen as I looked into that gaping mouth. I just listened to him, but my body was shaking. An endless, unknown darkness. The evil that stood in the center of the darkness was staring at me. I wasn't trembling just because of the ominous status of secretive plotter. No, perhaps I should say that you are pursuing eternity. I stared at him and was silent for a moment. How did you know? His words had two meanings for me. Eternity, final chapter. Two opposing meanings were implied in one word. It was like the messages I heard when I got a giant story. Have obtained the qualification of eternity. Have obtained the qualification of final chapter. Oddly, my end had two meanings. When the constellations, including the mass production maker, asked me about the filtering, I replied with final chapter, because it was easier to persuade the constellations. I never told anyone that my black square had two meanings. Once you live for many years, the things that aren't said are heard louder. The exclusive skill, fourth wall, is shaking ominously. The fourth wall is protecting you by bulking up. The fourth wall is baring its teeth towards the secretive plotter. Fragment of the last wall, don't worry, I don't intend to hurt you. Unknown laughter emerged from the shadow's mouth. Secretive plotter. Along with the great sage, the equal of heaven, the abyssal black flame dragon and Uriel, he was a constellation who had been watching me the longest, an existence I hadn't read about in ways of survival. I took a deep breath. I practiced my meeting with him several times, but I didn't know it would be like this. Nice to meet you, secretive plotter. I didn't know him. However, that didn't mean I couldn't make any guesses. The crawling chaos in the depths of the scenario. Chapter 283, Demon King of Salvation 5. The crawling chaos. One of the outer gods that was closest to the origin of the universe and favorable to humans. This was according to mythology. In fact, there was no mention of him in ways of survival. The crawling chaos. Did the last wall call me that? It's just my guess. It is literature left by the recorders of fear. Believing in records that aren't even 100 years old, you are more naive than I thought. The unknown can't be revealed in human language. I bit my lips. There wasn't much known about the outer gods in the myths that were the prototypes for ways of survival. In the 74th turn of Ways of Survival, one of the recorders of fear, left the following remark. Everything we wrote was a lie. It was the only lie we could use to explain the unknown horrors. I was a bit daunted as I asked, are the myths on Earth wrong? I am secretive plotter, that is enough. It was an ambiguous answer, but also a sufficient one. I didn't know if he was the crawling chaos or not. At the very least, it was clear that secretive plotter was undoubtedly a strong outer god. I have a request. You want to ask me to stop that? That's right. The secretive plotter looked down as the mass of fog swallowed a planet. The time of the world was slowed down by the power of secretive plotter, but it wasn't completely halted. The secretive plotter kept looking down as he spoke. The fog is a disaster originating from the beginning. It is impossible to eliminate it completely. I know that there are ways. The secretive plotter just looked down at the universe while disregarding my words. I waited nervously for what he would say next. The shimmering shadow made a disturbing sound. I didn't think it would feel like this when I heard the indirect messages on the channel. I thought he was a good constellation with lots of playfulness and friendliness. The shadow currently in front of me only gave off a cold and frightening sensation. I didn't know what happened, but the appearance of the 73rd demon realm suddenly seemed close. It was as if I was looking through a telescope of enormous magnification as I saw the people of the industrial complex. Kim Dokjia. Jung Hee-won's voice seemed like an auditory hallucination. I saw the party members screaming in despair. Why are you trying to save them? You can see the ending even if you live alone. The ending is only meaningful if they are there. As I spoke, I stimulated dozens of questions and answers in my head. Both my hands were sweating. I couldn't fail here. No matter what, I had to convince the secretive plotter in this conversation. What if they don't want it? I slowly opened my mouth. Damn it, Kim Dokja, stop, please come back. I don't want this. I don't want to survive this way. I'll do anything. If you die, I'll die. If you are going to sit still, I'll sit still. Please don't do this. Please. The voices of my party members were heard using Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. They didn't say it, but I heard the words. What if the ending they wanted was to die with you there? Do you still want to save them? I barely managed to open my mouth. Yes. It isn't salvation, it is a curse. I couldn't come up with an excuse. It was my story that answered on my behalf. The story Demon King of Salvation is continuing. The secretive plotter watched the story coming from me and kept asking. Using those who should have died, changing the world line, hurting everyone and reaching the ending you desire. What is the meaning? The empty eyes of the shadow were shining. An eerie chill went down my spine. No matter what you do or what story you make, you can't truly reach them. The indirect messages didn't reveal the essence of the constellations. Just as I couldn't fully understand the characters from reading the books, maybe it was a mistake to see the secretive plotter. However, it was too late to back down. I opened my mouth after a moment. I heard that once in my childhood. Still, there is still the wall left behind. They were words that Jang Haeyoung once said. Even if there is an insurmountable wall between me and then, even if it isn't heard by the person beyond the wall, I can write something on the wall and at the very least, the wall will change. I wasn't able to say a proper goodbye to Jang Haeyoung. Perhaps he was in the ward like Yoo Jong-hyuk. Maybe after a very long time, somebody might look at the wall. There were no words from secretive plotter for a while. Every sentence had a different meaning to the interpreter. To the secretive plotter who lived for a very long time, my words might sound completely different. Even so, these were the only words I could squeeze out with my 28 years of wisdom. I just hoped that these words would move something in the secretive plotter. I don't agree with your method, but I'm curious. Finally, the secretive plotter opened his mouth. Let's say you reach the end of everything using your method and save the world. Then what about the other worlds? Other worlds. The moment I was about to speak, the universe at my feet flipped over like a card. The cards that were divided into dozens and hundreds of pieces were shining in their own way with different colors and shapes. It was a dimension more distant than the star stream, a world that was blurry but clearly existed. It contained the world of ways of survival that I had read. There was Yu Jonghyuk, who died in the theater dungeon in the 8th round. There was the Yu Jonghyuk who went to the Breaking the Sky Sword Saint in the 18th round. There was the 41st round Yu Jonghyuk, who made the choice to sacrifice his colleagues. There was the 181st round Yu Jonghyuk, who stood up from despair. The stories of the Yu Jonghyuk who once saved me were on display in front of me. In addition, I knew the ending of all the regressions. What about all the worlds you didn't save? It was an unthinkable question. No, it was a question I didn't want to think about. In order to stop that story, I changed Yu Jonghyuk's third turn. All the events of the original ways of survival, and all the worlds that protected me in my childhood. Were they going to be non-existent now? The secretive plotter looked at me like it was interesting. I will fulfill your request. Suddenly, the screen on the floor changed to the 73rd Demon Realm. I didn't understand this whim, but secretive plotter decided to accept the deal with me. However, there is a condition. I had expected it. All outer world covenants were subject to severe conditions. Anything is fine, unless it requires me to be subordinate to you or my death. The mouth of the secretive plotter opened and revealed something white. It was as if the conditions I mentioned were ridiculous. Sometimes you might have to risk your life. It is all up to you. Okay, however, please save my party members first before speaking the terms. As I said before, I can't eliminate the fog. Then, I can only save the mortals in the industrial complex. Is that okay? I paused for a moment before nodding. I thought I knew what the secretive plotter was going to do. Can you move them to a safe place? Where do you want to move them? Earth, if possible. I would prefer Seoul. It is a closed scenario area, but there is hope. There was a sound, and one of his long fingers was cut off. The small finger of the shadow rose in the air, turning into tens of thousands of points that flew into the universe. The points crossed the galaxy in an instant and dug into the 73rd Demon Realm. The screen under my feet showed the people of the industrial complex. The people were being transported somewhere with a new scenario. The population of the industrial complex was close to 100,000. Now the secretive plotter would send out personal scenarios to all the incarnations. A great amount of probability was exhausted, but secretive plotter replaced the probability with the sacrifice of one finger. The people who received the scenario were hiding in the demon world. Indescribable distance was released from the bondage of time and started to belatedly devour the planet, but it was already empty. The fog missed the party members and cried out. Now it's my turn. Speak. You must kill someone. Can I ask who I have to kill? My heart was heavy. Maybe there would be special constraints, or it might be a tangle of probability that not even the secretive plotter could touch. Accept the covenant and you will know. What happens if I refuse? In the end, I saw the group of people who had been moved to Earth by the secretive plotter. I still have 9 fingers left. I accept. In any case, the worst situation was escaped. The party members safely returned to Earth and everything was as planned. A new sub-scenario has been acquired. The Starstream scenario system has encountered an error. The information of this scenario is being reconstructed. You have acquired the possibility of a new story. A story that can't be understood by the Starstream is germinating. I was the only one left. If I did this well, everything would end smoothly. The secretive plotter lifted his right hand. The darkness of the universe distorted, and a small portal started to open. Actually, there was another person beside you who made a covenant. Besides me, I looked through my memories of the original novel, but couldn't come up with a person who would make an outer world covenant at this time. What happened to them? I'm expecting much bigger things from you. If you safely complete the scenario, you'll be able to come back without any problems. The portal increased to a size I could go through. Another outer god will transfer you. Be careful not to disobey him. At the end, I was sucked into the portal. The foundations were built up and the whole world spread out like a postmodern oil painting where the intention couldn't be read. The brilliant colors caused me to feel nauseated, and once I lifted my head again, there was a huge door in front of me. Facing me was a giant bubble that filled the endless universe, and a circular door occupied the center. The moment the door opened its big eyes at me, the fourth wall was triggered. The fourth wall is issuing a warning. There was only one such gigantic door in ways of survival. An existence NT by the plot tour. I nodded. The door looked down at me with its own will. Fragment of the lacent wall end. It was a stuffy voice that sounded like it was coming from water. Servant jour naying to end of life. Where am I going? Everything is right T10 and exist at the Sami Timi. Well, I never thought a normal conversation would work. It was usually the case with an outer god. Only the secretive plotter was an exceptional case. The past and present aren't diff fee rent from the future. On life free will is la ft. The door opened with a huge sound. A door that linked the past, present, and future. If I stepped in there, I wouldn't be able to go back. Before that, there was something I had to do. I hesitated before placing my hand into my clothes. I pulled out a warm and tiny cotton ball. But Bu was crying as she shouted at me. Chapter 284, Demon King of Salvation 6. But Bayet. No. Bayet. Go back. The world inside the open door couldn't be seen properly. After all, it was clearly a dangerous place. Take care of the people. Perhaps this moment had been scheduled from the moment I found traces of indescribable distress from Surya's train fragments. Perhaps I would receive little help from ways of survival in the place where I was going now. Still, I had to go. If I endured it well this one time, I could return to the party members. With them, I could reach the end of all the scenarios. I slowly moved my feet and Bu screamed. But Bayet, above it. I stepped through the boundaries of the door, and Bu's voice suddenly faded away. I looked towards Bu's fuzzy face and spoke words that couldn't be conveyed. I'll come back. The Outer World Covenant is activated. You have been deported from the Starstream. Your modifier will disappear from the Starstream. Even after Kim Dokja disappeared into the portal, secretive plotter stared at the portal for a long time. An elderly man with two abnormally large lumps stood beside the secretive plotter. Great plotter, he is already gone. He just left. Too bad. I wanted to see what type of person he was. Well, you must like him a lot. You sacrificed 3 fingers for him. 3 fingers on secretive plotter's left hand had disappeared. It was the price of the probability. No matter your identity, it would have been a burden to borrow the Viceroy's dimensional gate. Why didn't you ask us? It is a fraudulent transaction that the probability of the Weni people can't handle. The elderly man clicked his tongue. I can't understand it at all. No matter the story, I wouldn't do something like this. You can't understand it. In the shadow of secretive plotter, white eyes flashed in the air. The elderly man followed the gaze. It was as if he discovered something in the air. That troublesome person, did you intentionally send him? There will be no harmful effect anyway. The old man laughed. Well, it doesn't matter. If only I can deal one blow to that damn Starstream. But is there a chance? If he succeeds, he will be closer to the result than anyone else. Than anyone else. It is funny you are saying that when you have already seen the result. The old man grumbled. Whether he succeeds or fail, it will be a loss for you anyway. Secretive plotter shook his head and replied, It isn't me who will judge it. The fourth wall is shaking violently. As my consciousness flickered, a chill went down my spine. The Outer World Covenant is protecting your existence. I felt like I was going somewhere as I had a few dreams. It was a dream about the party members. Dr. SI is always looking at the smartphone. What is Dr. SC's number? We can't call him anyway, so what is the point? Just let me know. I'll send him a game invitation later. A game invitation. I really hoped I would get it in the future. Dr. SI seems to laugh more often after the fall. The way Ajasi is a bit unlucky when he smiles. Isn't it worth changing his mouth shape? I wish Dr. SI could have been my senior. The second hand of a clock was ticking somewhere. I never hated Dr. SI like I do today. Come back. The beginning and end of the unknown story were pushing me. I relied on my memories like a small raft moving through a vicious current. In the endless void of the universe, only my memories were floating. Maybe this was how Bu, Shin Yusung of the 41st round felt. Not longer afterwards, a message was heard. The Viceroy's dimensional door is closed. The star stream has noticed your presence. By the time I came to my senses, I was crouched on the floor and vomiting. I felt the touch of the hard ground and slowly opened my eyes. You have entered the new scenario area. The docubus of the Bureau have doubts about your existence. The stiffened joints of my incarnation body screamed. I hit a pressure point to restore my body as quickly as possible. I didn't know where this was, but I had to be nervous from now on. Secretive plotter himself wasn't in the original novel, so ways of survival couldn't help me with the things that happened here. Cuckoo. The places eaten by the indescribable distance were painful, but I somehow recovered with a great return pill. My horns and wings disappeared because the Demon King transformation was over. It is impossible to use Demon King transformation at the present time. I didn't forget to thoroughly check the equipment and place the necessary items in a position where I could use them immediately. The first thing I checked was the personal scenario window. You can't launch the sub-scenario window. The information for this scenario hasn't been updated yet. The scenario update wasn't applied yet. I looked around at the wreckage of the broken buildings, the collapsed high-rise buildings and the debris of the logos between them. The characters that made up the logo were familiar. There was Hangul and also English. The languages of second-grade tribes were also found. I stopped for a moment and read them. Slowly, an uncomfortable feeling rose from the tip of my feet. Where was this place? The star stream has recognized your modifier. Your position in the night sky will be refreshed. The Bureau is wary of your presence. You have been assigned a hidden scenario. Hidden scenario, world adaptation has been acquired. You have acquired a new story. Don't tell me. I started running through the streets, an unrecognizable ruined city. Even so, I was able to recognize this place. It was strange if I couldn't recognize it. It was because my nightmares originated from this city. The status of Yisunsen that only had the legs remaining and the destroyed absolute throne. The carcasses of beasts scattered everywhere, and the remnants of giant tentacles gave off a terrible stench. Nevertheless, there was no time to think. I heard the sound of an explosion and hid among the ruins in my area. A loud shout was heard. People were fleeing from something. No, looking closer, it wasn't people. They were constellations in incarnation bodies. The considerable number of constellations were shouting in their true voices. Run away. Damn it. Their words didn't finish. The feet of an elephant descended from the air and the incarnation bodies burst like worms. I watched the scene breathlessly. The elephant's feet contained an irresistible status and dragged the dead incarnation bodies somewhere. Crazy, what the hell was this? After the elephant disappeared, I carefully escaped through the ruins and headed cautiously towards the bodies. There were a few items to collect on the floor. I looked at the items and controlled my mind. Stay calm. No matter how dangerous this place was, there was a chance of winning if I obtained information. If this was still a scenario area, ways of survival was still valid. The attribute effect has improved your memories of the pages already read. What type of scenario was this? The incarnation bodies of the constellations were present, and the fragments of the outer god were scattered. The 95th main scenario is in progress. The Outer World Covenant has replaced your lacking probability. You aren't a formal participant of the scenario. The star stream doubts your eligibility. Their hairs on my arm stood up. How many? The item Erendite has been acquired. I stared blankly down at the item I had collected. A constellation star relic was rolling around on the streets. I skipped a few years. I wondered how the party members were doing. The exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, has been activated. Yonghiwan Li Hyunsung, Shin Yusung. The exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, is cancelled. You can't connect with the current target. The character can't be found. I tried to calm my trembling heart. I needed to be calm. Nothing was certain yet. I took deep breaths to control my mind and express the power of a constellation. I planned to explore the surroundings through a channel if there was one nearby. At this moment, a sound was heard in the area. It was the sound of a powerful strike along with the constellation's screams. The moment I reflexively tried to hide between the buildings, I could see a black coat fluttering. For a brief second, I felt my heart stop. Scarred muscles could be seen through the torn sleeves of the coat. I looked at the trajectory of the sword against the ground, and emotions filled my heart. He was alive, although he wasn't exactly the same as what I remembered. His physique was a bit bigger, his impression was a bit sharper, and there was a large scar on his cheek. There was no way I couldn't know him. You. I opened my mouth, but something faster than sound flew at me. I would have died instantly if I hadn't invoked Bookmark and Way of the Wind. Even though I dodged, there was a big stab wound in my side. I covered the wound and looked at him with a confused expression. By the time I looked up, he was already in front of my eyes. I was suffocated as he gripped my neck. My voice didn't come out, so I had to use my true voice. Hey, you Jonghyuk, it's me. Maybe too much time had passed. It took me longer than I thought, so he might have forgotten about me. Let me go, it's me. You already forgot. A terrible pain hit my belly and I felt like I was going to fall unconscious. I thought it was a terrible joke, or perhaps he was so angry that he was acting like this. Then Yu Jonghyuk's cold voice was heard. Where is Erendite? Do you have it? At this moment, a cool sensation grazed my neck. The moment I first met Yu Jonghyuk on Dongho Bridge came to mind. He had similar eyes. It was the eyes of a person who didn't know me. I will kill you if you don't answer within 5 seconds. Oh. Really? It was the eyes of a person who could kill me. The exclusive skill, character list, is activated. There is too much information about this person. Character list is converted to character summary list. A system error has occurred. 4. The information of the character can't be summarized. The information of the character can't be summarized. Along with a terrible headache, a terrible amount of information started flowing in. 3. I groaned and changed the setting of character list. The minimum number of items specified by the user is shown. I saw the information rising before my eyes and was upset. I thought I knew all the endings of ways of survival. Character list summary. Name Yu Jonghyuk. Constellation support. Private attribute, regressor 1863rd round, myth, ruler of amusement legend, Iron Blood Supreme King legend, Demon King Slayer myth, Eternal Solitude quasi-myth, Horror of the Stars myth. Exclusive skills, Sage's Eyes LV, Hand-to-Hand Combat LV, Thoughts Vaccine LV, 100 Steps Godly Fists LV, Red Phoenix Shunpo LV, Breaking the Sky Swordsmanship LV. Omitted. Stigma Regression LV, Transmission LV. The skill level of this person can't be converted to a numerical value. The stigma level of this person can't be converted to a numerical value. However, there was only one. There was one regression where I didn't know the end. A man who lost all his colleagues and finally saw the final chapter of the story in front of him. 2. The monster whose emotions were worn out by countless betrayals and numerous regressions were watching me. Along with the pain that pierced deep into my chest, The words left by secretive plotter revolved in my ears. Let's say you reach the end of everything using your method and save the world. Then what about the other worlds? What about all the worlds you didn't save? In the sky of the ruined Gwanghwamun, the dying stars were shining. This wasn't the third round of the star stream that I changed. I changed the future, and the worlds of the original novel were abandoned. Yu Jonghyuk's blade moved through the air. It looks like you aren't going to answer, then die. It was the 1863rd regression of Ways of Survival. This world was the last round of Yu Jonghyuk that I knew about. Chapter 285, Demon King Slayer 1. The most imaginative thing I've ever read was 3 ways to survive in a ruined world. What if Ways of Survival became a reality? Perhaps anyone would have imagined such a thing with their favorite novel. I did as well. Maybe it was due to the endless imaginations in my youth that I was able to adapt to Ways of Survival. Once the scenario started, I would do this first and then do this. This hidden piece would be obtained. During middle school, I even drew charts in the corner of my textbook. Jonghyuk, a professional gamer, an awful personality, a psychopath, kills if words don't work, sometimes just kills. Have to unconditionally bring him to my side. Humanity still remains in the third round. I had been glad when I first realized I had fallen into the third round of Ways of Survival. I came to a world I could change and thought it was really fortunate. If I had fallen into the last round, Kim Dak Yadao GHT. There was no existence that could stop him. Shit. I shouted with all my strength as I saw the blade flying towards me. Wait, stop, I said, stop. A person who regressed more than 1,000 times. A spirit that had become insensitive from the hundreds of suicides and tragedies that an individual could suffer. The extremely widespread regression depression. Yu Jonghyuk of the 1863rd round is the despair of the world itself. I acted the moment the blade was about to pass through my neck. The special skill Miniaturization LV-10 is activated. My body shrank in an instant and the blade passed through the air. The man's startled eyes were seen from over the blade. This damn guy. Did he think I came here to die? This might be the 1863rd round, but he was mistaken if he thought I would obediently die. The exclusive skill bookmark is activated. The exclusive skill Electrification LV-12+2 has been activated. I knew I wasn't his opponent. However, I still had to try my best. My body moved at lightning speed as I yelled, "Son of a bitch, you have to let me talk to you." The indirect messages poured from the air, along with my cry. Some constellations have noticed your presence. The constellation, Adventurer who stands up an egg, is interested in your appearance. The constellations, King of Ephemera, is interested in the fight between you and Iron Blood Supreme King. Some constellations feel strong jealousy towards you. 1000 coins have been sponsored. The 95th scenario of the 1863rd regression. The world might be like this, but there were still constellations giving donations. The nature of the sponsorship was a bit different, but Yu Jonghyuk glared at me with a stiff expression. The Beekchung School, strange. I'm sure he is out of action in this round. This person's brain circuits had become twisted after over 1,000 regressions. He would have finished judging whether to kill or spare me based on the actions I had shown so far. It was scary. The exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, has been activated. It was because I was afraid that I had to read it now. Thus, I could get out of this situation. You have an insufficient understanding of the person and can't activate the second stage. The exclusive skill, Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Stage 1 has been activated. I lacked understanding. My pride was a bit hurt, but I thought it would be like this. This was Yu Jonghyuk of the 1863rd round, not the Yu Jonghyuk I knew. It might just be the first stage, but I had to invoke it. I might not be able to read the details, but even knowing the attack direction would help. Neck. The moment that Yu Jonghyuk's thought was transmitted, I withdrew with all my might. Even this guy wouldn't be able to easily catch me. It was because I was now using way of the wind and electrification. Tiaku. I didn't know if I had turned my body first or the dark shadow had moved ahead of me first. My breath was blocked and my vision darkened. It was a feast of magic power that seemed to hurt my whole body. I flew through the air like an electrocuted fish. A tremendous amount of magic power shook my body. Some constellations are laughing at you. It was the face of Yu Jonghyuk that was seen in front of me. His hands were crushing my torso. My neck hurt like it was broken as it was held between thumb and index finger. I couldn't believe it. This might be the Yu Jonghyuk of the last regression, but how could he catch me so easily when I used electrification? I will ask you a final time. I realized the moment I heard his cold and apathetic voice. It was stupid to think I could avoid it by knowing the direction in advance. The person in front of me wasn't the young Yu Jonghyuk of the third round. Where is the dragon sword Arendite? How could I speak when he was holding my neck? I see Lancelot's incarnation body here, so you must surely know. Ah, the constellation who just died was Lancelot. Shit. If you don't answer, I will it out of you. Yu Jonghyuk's eyes shone with a golden light. As a matter of fact, Yu Jonghyuk's foundations remained unchanged, whether it was the third or 1863rd regression. The character Yu Jonghyuk has used Sage's Eyes LV. After over 1,000 regressions, his Sage's Eyes had reached a formidable level. Perhaps the presence that wasn't visible now in Yu Jonghyuk's eyes was the outer god that had lived for a long time. The exclusive skill Fourth Wall has blocked Sage's eyes. The exclusive skill Fourth Wall is strongly activated. The moment Yu Jonghyuk's Sage's eyes focused on my body, the wall moved. The fourth wall stood firmly in front of the persistent gaze that didn't want to miss a single piece of information. There were stronger sparks than when I had encountered the unidentified wall. No T-bad. This time the fourth wall looked formidable. At this point, I couldn't tell if the fourth wall or Yu Jonghyuk was the great one. The fourth wall didn't back down and Yu Jonghyuk didn't give up. It was me who was fried between them. It was so painful that I couldn't scream, even with my true voice. Kyuka. Yu Jonghyuk raised his power first. The collision was so strong that golden circles swirled in his eyes. The character Yu Jonghyuk is feeling a competitive spirit. The character Yu Jonghyuk is showing great hostility towards you. This was a barrier that couldn't be penetrated even with Sage's eyes. Once again, I realized what a great skill Fourth Wall was. Then something strange happened. The fourth wall was able to prevent Sage's eyes and started to flow like water over Yu Jonghyuk's hand. The typed letters covered his body like insects, and for the first time, Yu Jonghyuk sounded disconcerted. What? The wriggling letters became memories that flowed like a panorama. They were my memories of the third round that were recorded on the fourth wall. Get your hand off me and get lost, you damn jerk. Maybe not. In any case, I am hopeful about the situation. What is so hopeful about it? Jonghyuk, we can save the world, don't you know? The name of our nebula is Kim Dokcha's company. There isn't a name yet. In addition, we will gain the supporters now. Yu Jonghyuk couldn't comprehend the memories in front of him. They were all things that didn't exist in this round. The sparks that almost blinded me eased and Yu Jonghyuk's expression became clearer. What are you? The 1843rd round made an astonished expression. I heard the voice of the fourth wall in my head as if it thought this round was interesting. I did we LL Kim Dokya. Did it do well? Tell me, what is this? I'll tear you apart if you don't say it. What did it do well? Shit. Kyuk, no wait, I need some time to answer. I exploded the blue-white energy as I was held in Yu Jonghyuk's hands. I was struggling to escape from him. This might not be enough, but I would at least buy some time until I could borrow the power of the giant story. Then something unexpected happened. There was an explosion and Yu Jonghyuk missed me. There was a surprised and confused expression. Yu Jonghyuk reached out with sluggish movements. I wanted to know what happened, but I couldn't miss the opportunity I had just gained. The exclusive skill, Way of the Wind LV. 11+1 is activated. Way of the Wind was activated, and the blue-white energy made a trail through the air. I thought he would chase after me quickly, but I didn't feel Yu Jonghyuk right away. I looked back and saw an unexpected sight. What was this? The moment I had the question, a deafening true voice echoed in the expanse. Yu Jonghyuk, I will repay the grudge of immeasurable austerity. Red and blue eyes glared from the roof of a nearby building. Two black leopards with streamlined buildings emanated a strong energy as they fell towards Yu Jonghyuk. The Demon King, devil of easiness and atrocity, is showing hostility towards Incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. The Demon King, eyes that see the forbidden, is showing his teeth to Incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. Yu Jonghyuk of the 1863rd round was stronger than anyone else, but he had many enemies. Thanks to this, I could identify the two leopards without much difficulty. Devil of easiness and atrocity, Os. Eyes that see the forbidden, Floros. They were the 57th and 64th demon kings of the demon world. The prideful demon kings forgot their shame and unleashed a pincer attack towards an incarnation. However, it wasn't shameful. Demon King Slayer, your story will end here. Right now, Yu Jonghyuk was an existence full of value. I buried myself in the rubble as there was a deafening roar. Then I carefully watched the situation. It was a clash I couldn't afford, and I thought I should move away, but I had a desire to watch the fight a bit more. It wasn't another fight, but the fight of the 1863rd round Yu Jonghyuk. It wasn't easy to see. My ears seemed to burst, and the battle began. Many constellations are enthusiastic about the battle of Incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. Indirect messages poured out as Yu Jonghyuk pulled out his sword. It was the heaven-shaking sword that was already broken in the third round. The blade had gone through a number of scenarios and had been upgraded to a completely new level, shining brightly in the darkness. The demon kings facing him also revealed their power. Creatures rise from death. The dead earls and dukes of the demon world became undead and emerged from the ground. They held elite objects that preserved the combat power of their lives. However, Yu Jonghyuk wasn't panicked at all. It is summoning the dead. The devil of principles also used it. Yu Jonghyuk was smiling. That bastard's body is now hanging among the dead constellations. Shut up. A light flashed and Yu Jonghyuk's sword moved. What should I call this swordsmanship? Breaking the sky swordsmanship. I didn't know. The certain thing was that it was an amazingly beautiful swordsmanship. It was also a surprisingly cruel swordsmanship. The nobles of the demon world were cut by the sword and screamed as they turned to ash. They were high-ranking dukes comparable to great-grade constellations. Such beings exploded with a few swings of the sword. In less than a minute, Yu Jonghyuk killed dozens of undead nobles and reached the nose of Floros. Hell! Like a toy, the head of Demon King Floros exploded. There were no emotions in his eyes. There was a single blow with a sweet smile. Yu Jonghyuk killed a Demon King. This crazy bastard. The Demon King Os shouted angrily. Constellations, why are you hesitating? The moment the call was heard, the constellations hiding in the ruins came out. Most of them were constellations of the absolute evil system. They ranged from great grade to narrative grade. Every constellation rushed to get rid of one incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. The character Yu Jonghyuk is talking about the story of eternal damnation. However, Yu Jonghyuk wasn't pushed at all. A bloody aura overflowed from his body and collided with the constellations. It was a scary and powerful force, but the blow was calm and full of moderation. Every time Yu Jonghyuk's sword moved, the ranks of the constellations shook helplessly. The constellations of the absolute good system hate the incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. The incarnation bodies of the constellations exploded one by one. The high-ranking constellations could look so shabby. There were no signs of impatience as Yu Jonghyuk continued the battle. The character Yu Jonghyuk is talking about the giant story, Lonely Pilgrim of Destruction. Yu Jonghyuk was only using his left arm to destroy the constellations. Every time a constellation fell, my arms trembled. The constellations of the absolute evil system are shocked by the combat ability of incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. Hatred became shock. Some constellations of the absolute evil system are afraid of the incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. Shock became fear. Many constellations are trembling at the power of incarnation, Yu Jonghyuk. It was thrilling, crazy guy, he was a really crazy guy. No matter how I thought about it, there was no way to bring down the current Yu Jonghyuk. I didn't know what scenario secretive plotter gave me, but I must never become enemies with this guy until it was over. Then a message was heard. The sub-scenario commissioned by secretive plotter has arrived. Chapter 286, Demon King Slayer 2. Finally, the message I had been waiting for had arrived. Secretive plotter's personal scenario. Sub-scenario secretive plotter. Category sub-personal. Difficulty. Clear conditions. Time limit. Compensation. Can return to the original round with a legendary story 1, a skill 1, and an item 1. The probability required will be borne by the scenario proponent. Failure. Unable to return to the original turn. Your incarnation body will be destroyed. The moment I opened the scenario window, the thing that caught my eyes was the compensation. The Bureau is currently suspicious of your probability. I wasn't a member of this regression. Therefore, even if I got an item, skill, or story in this turn, I wouldn't be able to preserve it after returning to my original world. It was just like how the 41st round Shin Yusung was weakened so badly that she could be hit. However, if the reward was true, I could take the things obtained in this round because to my original world. It was a tremendous reward. No matter how much the probability was constrained, the spoils of the 95th scenario would match the 95th scenario. The skills and stories available here had the power to transform the world in the 20th scenario. Don't be too high, La rated Kim Dok-ya. I barely calmed down at the fourth wall's words. In fact, it wasn't a situation where I could rejoice. The rewards for the scenario was high, but the cost of failure was just as huge. If I failed, I couldn't go back to my original round and would lose my incarnation body. This wasn't the turn I belonged to, so the influence of my stories weren't big. In such a situation, I could end up killed by a probability storm if I lost my incarnation body. Moreover, this wasn't the biggest problem. The clearance conditions for this scenario are being updated. The most important clearance condition hadn't been updated. I didn't know if it was an error from crossing dimensions or if secretive plotter was deliberately dragging out the time. Frankly, it was possible either way. I thought as I watched Yu Jonghyuk fighting in the distance. If I was secretive plotter, what clear conditions would I place on this scenario, based on the movements of secretive plotter so far? It was an ominous thought. The exclusive skill Reading Comprehension is activated. Secretive plotter. I was expecting him to be crawling chaos, but the true identity of the outer god was unknown. He had been with me since my first channel opened, but I had very little information about him. He wasn't arrogant like the great sage, the equal of heaven, full of justice like Uriel, wicked like the abyssal black flame dragon. He wasn't even present in the original ways of survival. He was merely secretive plotter. You can't read the target with the information you have. The exclusive skill Reading Comprehension is cancelled. Curiosity about the unknown is leading to a new ability. I didn't know. What was he trying to show me through this scenario? In addition, what did he want to gain? There was never a case where the outer god had done this, so I couldn't easily guess. Only one thing was certain. Qak. This scenario was likely to be connected to the monster slaughtering the constellations over there. That's it now, everybody pincer attack him. Yu Jonghyuk. As I was briefly distracted by the scenario window, the battlefield was flowing in an unexpected form. Yu Jonghyuk's condition was strange. A little while ago, he had been killing the constellations and overwhelming the battlefield. Now his movements were dulled. Yu Zhanghyuk's body was stiffening under the pouring bombardment. What was this bastard? What happened? I adjusted the setting of character list to check his condition. Currently in an abnormal condition. Abnormal condition. There was no way. Who was the 1863rd regression Yu Zhanghyuk? This was Yu Zhanghyuk, who was the ruler of the East Hell and killed the devil of principles. There was no one among the constellations who could place an abnormal condition on the present Yu Zhanghyuk. Yu Zhanghyuk's eyes were blank. I felt uncomfortable, like something was stuck in my throat. No, there was. There was only one person who could cause an abnormal status in Yu Zhanghyuk. The target is suffering from regression depression due to an unknown cause. It was Yu Zhanghyuk himself. Regression depression. The spirit of the man who had been broken over 1863 lives made the regression depression almost a passive, low-level skill. Once he fell into the depression, his consciousness was caught in the weight of his memories, and he couldn't wake up. Kill him, he isn't invincible. The ruthless strikes caused Yu Zhanghyuk's body to bleed little by little. It was strange. Originally, the regression depression shouldn't occur in this situation. In the 1863rd round, Yu Zhanghyuk had learnt how to manage this disease. Why was he in this current state? The fourth wall is saying, ha ha ha. Was it your doing? The fourth wall didn't answer, but it was the only guess I had. The previous collision with the fourth wall must have caused some disruption in Yu Zhanghyuk's inner surface. Damn, what should I do? Blood flowed from Yu Zhanghyuk's skin as he protected his face. The power of impenetrable skin was still applied, but it was only a matter of time before Yu Zhanghyuk died. I have to help. Why should I help him? The choices were fighting in my mind. Yu Zhanghyuk is a monster now. If I help, he will surely kill me when he wakes up. Think carefully. You don't know the clear conditions of this scenario. The clear conditions were still question marks. If the condition to clear the scenario is Yu Zhanghyuk's death, this is a golden opportunity. However, what if the clear condition is Yu Zhanghyuk's survival? If Yu Zhanghyuk died, I would lose everything. Damn! Should I help or not? Yu Zhanghyuk's knees were slowly sinking to the ground. The normally weak guys were excitedly tearing at Yu Zhanghyuk's body. Ha, I will have the story of the Iron Blood Supreme King. Yu Zhanghyuk would regress even if he died here. Then he would start a new round. Regression. Then what about the other worlds? Fucking plotter. What about all the worlds you didn't save? Once Yu Zhanghyuk died here, a world that wasn't in the original novel would be born. Yu Zhanghyuk would repeat the hell yet again. An abandoned world that secretive plotter showed me would be created, and Yu Zhanghyuk would once again crawl in the infinite despair. Shit, I didn't know. I activated electrification and flew towards Yu Zhanghyuk. Hey, leave me a share too. At my rough, true voice, the demon kings and constellations attacking Yu Zhanghyuk looked up. Who are you? Demonic energy, I've never seen you before. Do you come here to kill the Demon King Slayer? Demonic energy flowed from my body and I could see the enemy's tenseness being released. It was as expected. I spoke as I pulled out my status. That's right. We will share the good things together. It is possible. You came late, so you can't have the good stories. Don't worry, I'll only help from the back. A good attitude. Now everybody continue. I turned and struck the constellation with all my strength. The constellation let out a scream as he flew in a straight line and hit a ruined building. KQ, what are you doing? I wanted to hit him to death but was lacking. The constellations were angry by my abrupt actions and stared at me. Are you siding with the Demon King Slayer? I didn't reply and opened up the power of the giant story. The giant story, Demon World Spring, has begun. The pulse of the story stirred deep in my heart. Sparks surrounded my body as the story energy flooded through my blood. Some of the constellations saw my giant story and screamed with shock. the status of a demon king, from a guy I've never heard of. Of course, I wasn't a demon king of this world. I once again concentrated the power of electrification and blew away a constellation. The constellation was hit in the belly and took a few steps back. It wasn't comparable to Yu Jonghyuk, but the effect wasn't bad. I might be able to fight if it continued like this. An error has occurred in the operation of the story. The star stream can't find the origin of the giant story owned by you. The power of the giant story is sharply reduced. Shit, it was like this. The basis of my giant story, the 73rd demon realm, wasn't here. We made up the giant story together. Thus, it was natural that my story didn't work properly. I swung my sword at the approaching constellations and shouted at Yu Jonghyuk. Hey, wake up, you jerk. Yu Jonghyuk didn't answer. I tried to think of lines to wake up him, but I couldn't come up with anything. My status started to decline, and Demon King Os, who rose again on the battlefield, shouted. He is with the Demon King Slayer, kill him. There were 7 constellations, including Demon King Os. I naturally couldn't deal with them with my current power. I desperately evaded the attacks, but the 95th scenario was the 95th scenario. They might be ordinary constellations of the absolute evil system, but the blows hurt. My flesh was frayed by the onslaught, and the range of my movements became narrower. Despite the urgency, I continued to think of ways to wake up Yu Jonghyuk. Some things came to mind that would definitely wake up Yu Jonghyuk. The problem was what came next. If I woke him up using the methods I was thinking of, I was likely to die. I bit my lips and slowly opened my mouth. There was no way. In any case, I expected it to happen like this. I briefly took a deep breath and opened my mouth. How long will you keep your mouth shut? The expressions of the constellations changed at my words. Their eyes wondered what I was talking about. I continued speaking. It will be difficult for them if I die here. The next moment, the pockets of my chest shone brightly and a true voice was heard. What you knew? Of course, I wouldn't wake up Yu Jonghyuk. I might die if I did something crazy like that. It would be strange if I didn't know. I don't have a flower arrangement hobby. 2 flowers emerged from the inner pocket of my coat. It was a red cosmos and a white lily. I hadn't noticed their existence in the beginning. I realized when I crossed worlds. They were really daring constellations. There is no other way. The moment they realized the identity of the true voice, the complexion of the constellations hostile to me darkened. The lily laughed at them. Should we both come out, or Jaffiel, will you do it alone? They are enemies of Eden. Immediately execute them. Do you want to do it together? How annoying. Okay, I understand. The next moment, the petals of the cosmos and lily scattered in the wind. The petals moved towards the sky and a message flashed in front of me. I looked at the message for a moment before slowly nodding. A huge presence started to descend behind me. Astonishment appeared on the faces of the constellations, and I couldn't help laughing. I was curious. I had wondered what Jung Hee-won felt like at the time. Now I knew very well. 6 wings stretched out from behind me. I overflowed with probability as the status of Eden's best archangels was discharged from my body. The constellation Commander of the Red Cosmos has appeared in Seoul. The constellation Lily Pin of Aquarius has appeared in Seoul. Chapter 287, Demon King Slayer 3. Archangel. Demon King Os was looking to this side with eyes that were frightened beyond surprise. It was the same for the constellations of the absolute evil system. For them, the archangels of Eden were the worst enemies. It wasn't strange that they would be shocked at the sight of 2 archangels emerging simultaneously. Why are there archangels? The angels of Eden mostly died after that day. I heard the murmurs and felt regret. This was the world of the 1863rd regression. Gabriel and Jaffiel wouldn't know what happened in this round. Black Square CK, what nonsense is this? Gabriel's true voice rang out like she had been waiting. Like Uriel's swear words emerged from her mouth. I had to stop her before things became bigger. Gabriel, you don't need to listen to their nonsense. Quickly handle them. Don't whine at me, cheeky human. There were places to tackle, but she had to follow the words this once. Gabriel's power filled my entire body. I am the Archangel Gabriel. I could feel my hair standing up. Finally, Gabriel's main story was heard. I have been sent to tell you this good news. Of course, that good news only applied if Gabriel was on the same side. Don't be scared. The archangels are nothing but remnants who have lost their stronghold. Demon King Os encouraged the constellations. However, as he was talking, Osa was already moving far away. It happened when the constellations held their star relics and rushed towards me. This is about the fixed end. Gabriel's story, the revelation of the apocalypse, had begun. You have seen a ram with two horns. The great horn between the eyes is the first king. Golden strings flowed from my body. The size of my body was growing along with the strings. My body was overflowing with power like a ram in breeding season. Pure white horns rose in the place where the Demon King's horns had grown. Yu. The constellations of the absolute evil system were frightened just looking at the horns. Some constellations dropped their weapons like helpless incarnations, and some of them rushed around screaming. Yue. It was like they saw their end. He will be stronger and stronger with his own power, not my power. The six wings behind me emitted a brilliant flash of light as the attacks of the constellations poured towards me. Even so, I didn't receive any damage. The solid metal summoned before my eyes neutralized all types of attacks. It was a weapon that the giant god clan were likely to use. The snake shining with a white light climbed up the shaft, and the snake's eyes were studded with a dazzling window pane reminiscent of a cross. This was Gabriel's divine speak, the preference scale. I grasped the handle of the spear. All of a sudden, the world felt like it was tilting. All beings in the vicinity were placed on a scale. They were on one side of the scale or the other. I turned my head and Gabriel was smiling. Her palms touched my shoulder. He will commit terrible destruction, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. The spear shone brilliantly, and I threw it with all my might. Then part of the world was erased. The constellations attacking me from the sky, those running from the side, and even the ones who had lost their fighting spirit and had sunk to the ground. They disappeared like they never existed in this world. The only things left were the existences on this side of the scale. This was the true power of the Archangel. Gabriel opened her mouth and spoke in a grudging voice. I missed one. There was a limit to the number of petals. In fact, Demon King Os had anticipated the situation in advance and had already fled. He knew that he couldn't cope with an Archangel alone as a lower-ranked Demon King. However, Jophiel didn't just watch. A red fog was generated behind me and followed Os. The whole world screamed like it was in pain. It was apparently a red fog, but when I looked closer, it was an army of small soldiers. The 503rd unit of Eden turned the sky red. It was the elite unit that followed the commander of the Red Cosmos. Qiyaka. Red thorns rose from the bloody fog that moved like piranhas. A terrible scream was heard in the distance as the soldiers of heaven held a festival of blood. Then, after a while, everything became silent. The torn incarnation body of the Demon King flew in the wind like crumbs. The silent Gabriel moved my feet and trampled on the fragments of the Demon King. It's nothing. The constellations of the absolute evil system are greatly baffled by the emergence of the archangels. The Demon Kings are doubting the probability of the star stream. Some constellations have condemned the abnormal intervention of the archangels. Shut up these black. The 6 wings stretching from my back flew through the wind as countless feathers, and the power of the archangels diminished. I felt a bit nauseous, but the burden on my body wasn't as severe as I thought. Maybe it was because the amount of probability in the 95th scenario was much more abundant, or maybe it was the outer world covenant with secretive plotter. Either way, it was good for me. It isn't finished yet. However, Jophiel didn't retract her strength. Jophiel continued by giving a command, kill him too. She was pointing to Yu Jonghyuk, who was as stiff as a statue. I hurriedly waved my hands. There is no need. He isn't a bad guy. He is absolutely evil. My right eye stung, and the world started to look different. The stigma Eye of Sin is triggered. Eye of Sin, it was Archangel Jophiel's stigma, measuring the sins of the target. The eye that saw the sins accumulated in every existence in the world. There was only a dark abyss in the place where Yu Jonghyuk had just been standing. The sins of the target can't be converted to a numerical value. A darkness with no end. It was a darkness that got worse just by looking at it. Even the demon kings or constellations of the absolute evil system didn't have such huge sins. Jophiel spoke. It is an endless sin. I have never seen such a dense sin apart from Baal and Agars. All the sins in the world combined can't go beyond his sins. I knew Yu Jonghyuk had committed many sins. He killed many people. He destroyed many worlds. Countless souls cursed him. He must die. However, it isn't possible. This person, he also saved others. You can't kill him. Maybe it was nothing compared to everything he screwed up. Obviously, there were some things he saved. The constellation, commander of the Red Cosmos, is looking at you. In front of that sullen gaze, I gulped and opened my mouth. This guy is still useful. You shouldn't kill him now. Demon King of Salvation. It is because of the scribe's orders that you are still alive. You spared me so you can spare one more person. I looked back and saw that Yu Jonghyuk's body was lightly shaking. His consciousness was somehow struggling to emerge from the water. Jophiel spoke towards Yu Jonghyuk. If he wakes up, there is no guarantee that I can stop him. We have to kill him now. Jophiel tried to summon her fog again. I inwardly sighed. No matter what I thought, this was the only way. What if I can stop him from waking up without killing him? Jophiel's red fog stopped. What if there is a way to stop him from regaining consciousness while controlling his unconscious self? Is there a way to bind him? What trick are you going to use? The moment Jophiel was about to explode again, Gabriel stepped in. Jophiel, leave it. In any case, we need time to figure out the situation. Jophiel thought for a moment before responding. If he shows signs of waking up, I will kill him immediately. I nodded, then I ran straight to Yu Jonghyuk. Hey. The vibrations of his body were becoming stronger. I had seen this scene several times in the original novel. Maybe Yu Jonghyuk's consciousness would wake up in a few minutes. It was difficult if that happened. I slowly moved my hand and grabbed Yu Jonghyuk's neck, just as he did to me. It wasn't easy to raise him up because he was bigger than me. Let go. Yu Jonghyuk's consciousness had almost reached the surface of the water, and he spoke in a choppy manner. His fingertips moved slowly like he was trying to catch me. I knew how to wake up Yu Jonghyuk from his regression depression. In other words, it meant I also knew how to sink him deeper into that melancholy. I saw Yu Jonghyuk's fingertips moving and opened my mouth. Do you remember? The 33rd round. You cleared the 40th scenario and Lee Jihai said this. Yu Jonghyuk's eyes dimmed and his moving fingertips stopped. It would be nice if Master didn't have to go to the next round. Think about it, you weren't always unhappy, right? In all the rounds there were moments when you were happy. Yu Jonghyuk's expression was becoming stiffer. The 173rd round. You protected Earth for quite some time. You also saw Lee Jihai receiving her high school diploma and Lee Xiaohua smiling at someone's child. Jonghyuk SSI, are you happy that you're alive? Every time I spoke, Yu Jonghyuk's expression collapsed. It wasn't despair that broke down Yu Jonghyuk. The 383rd round. You finally cleared the 75th scenario. Fortunately, nobody died in that round. That was the first time. Then Lee Hyun-sung told you. Jonghyuk SSI, I won't forget today until I die. The feather-like memories sank into his head. Then the 498th round. Yu Jonghyuk's palms moved to cover his ears. The usual Yu Jonghyuk wouldn't have fallen from this much. Now it was different. I held his hands and kept talking. That happened 10 times. A human sank deeper into the water just because of the weight of these feathers. 20 times. My breath clogged up and my lungs tightened. I could feel what Yu Jonghyuk was going through. Only I could feel it. The most primitive darkness at the bottom of one person was swallowing his ego greedily. 100 times. It repeated over 1,000 times. All those words were destroyed. All the happy memories flowed back to a time they could never return to. Through the countless regressions, the meaning of happiness faded. All the values he preserved became pieces of torn paper. Yu Jonghyuk. Yu Jonghyuk's self was sinking into the deep sea. It was to a place that he could never come up from without someone's help. Have you protected all the things you wanted to keep? I looked at Yu Jonghyuk's miserable face and thought, don't worry, Yu Jonghyuk, I'll do the rest. You stop and rest. Your understanding of the character, Yu Jonghyuk, is increasing explosively. Yu Jonghyuk's empty eyes were showing memories of losing his master. I didn't use Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, but it wasn't hard to read. I want to die. I want to finish all of this. If only I can never wake up. A few drops of rain fell from the sky. It was black rain made from the blood of the demon kings and constellations. Liquid also flowed onto Yu Jonghyuk's face. Yu Jonghyuk's gaze lowered and finally fell on me. I was looking at the moment a human spirit collapsed. There was a broken voice. Like a creaking machine, Yu Jonghyuk stammered, "WH at should I do?" I released Yu Jonghyuk's hands and told him, "I'll finish your story." Yu Jonghyuk looked at me with empty eyes. However, I didn't see him. The sub-scenario window had just updated. Sub-scenario secretive plotter, end of the regressor. Clear conditions, Yu Jonghyuk's death. I reached for Yu Jonghyuk's heaven-shaking sword that was on the ground. Chapter 288, Demon King Slayer 4. A day passed since I arrived in the 1863rd round. The Gwanghwamun area was wet from the dark rain that had been falling since last night. Soon after the rain started, the monsters crouching between the ruins woke up one by one. There was the monster that looked like an elephant that I saw when I first got here, and one that reminded me of a huge octopus. The most frightening thing was the baby that was the size of a huge building. There were many types of outer gods, but not all of them were named Eater of Dreams or Indescribable Distance. Most of them were unnamed and existed without a proper ego. I watched the baby in a diaper pushing through the city like a bulldozer and hid while holding my breath. To be honest, I probably needed the diaper more than the baby. The constellation Lily Pin of Aquarius is looking at you. It had been a few hours since the archangels fell asleep, stating that they would save their energy. The white lily in my coat trembled as if it had regained power. Gabriel. Have you woken up? Why did you make that choice? What choice? Do you need to ask? There was no other way. I heard a creaking and crushing sound in the distance. The moment I thought something else had happened, I saw the torn-off leg of the elephant monster. There were signs that it was torn off by a powerful force. Someone dragged the severed leg and approached this way. It was the real monster of this scenario, Yu Jonghyuk. Like a sigh, the petals shook again. I thought he would die. Why is he holding a sword? He could have committed suicide. Well, I don't think that will happen now. I spoke while swinging Yu Jonghyuk's heaven-shaking sword through the air. It wasn't surprising, but I didn't kill Yu Jonghyuk. Gabriel was silent for a moment before muttering in a small voice, "What does Uriel like about this guy?" Uriel? Is Uriel well? How should I know? It was a reaction that seemed a bit excessive. The moment I was about to ask, another indirect message came. The constellation, Commander of the Red Cosmos, is looking at you. The difficult angel had also woken up. Jaffiel woke up and got straight to the point. Did you decide to keep him alive? I accepted the elephant's leg that Yu Jonghyuk had brought instead of answering. It was a leg that was very fleshy. It gave off a very rich and clear story. I faced Yu Jonghyuk, who stared at me with empty eyes. Jaffiel opened her mouth again. Don't you know that you shouldn't keep him alive? The scenario you received is. Yu Jonghyuk's death. It would have been nice if I could lie, but it was too late to deceive the archangels. They would have seen the scenario window that I saw. Jonghyuk's death. It was the scenario that secretive plotter gave me. I had to kill him in order to return to the original third round. As I've already mentioned, it is difficult to interpret this scenario as it is. The death proposed by secretive plotter might not be the death we thought about. The archangels were silent. They didn't seem to understand my words. I flipped the elephant's leg and calmly declared, "You Jonghyuk ka die. As archangels, you should already know this." I could feel the gazes of the two angels on me. What does that mean? This guy is a regressor. In the early scenarios, the information I just mentioned would have been filtered, but now it was different. The scenario was a scenario, but by now, rumors about the regressor should have spread quite a bit. Thus, the high-ranking constellations of Eden would know it. The red cosmos leaves shook uneasily. Don't tell me. I nodded. He is a being who repeats his life forever. No one can kill him. If he dies, he will just move on to another round. How do you know this? Why was Uriel keeping an eye on me? It was best to respond to questions that couldn't be answered was with more questions. Jophiel trembled as if controlling his anger. Then what are you going to do now? If you can't kill him, you can't return to your original round. I shrugged and placed the roasted meat into my mouth. I have to think about a way. There is plenty of time. At my calm response, an unusual air flowed around the two flowers. I was nervous because I thought they wanted to express their status, only to suddenly hear a strange sound. It was a growl that wasn't coming from my stomach. It didn't seem to be Yu Jonghyuk either. Then I bowed my head and saw the two flowers looking away. Are you hungry? Gabriel, how long are you going to stand by? I'm not standing by. I'm just watching. If it wasn't for Uriel, I would have killed him. Gabriel, who was stuck in a plastic bottle, answered while sucking up water through his stem. Beside her, the cosmos of Jophiel was likewise inserted into a bottle of water. In the distance, Kim Dokja was saying something to Yu Jonghyuk. Gabriel stared at him blankly and asked, "That Uriel, is she well?" Focus on the mission, Gabriel. No, I'm worried. Uriel always gets into trouble when she is left alone. I see. Do you actually like Uriel? What nonsense. Have you found a way to go back yet? How long are we supposed to stay with them? Gabriel's petals fluttered and Jophiel replied, I'm looking for a way, but it seems hard. Why, no matter how different the world line, there must be Eden here. If you ask the scribe here for help. There is no reply from the scribe. What? It isn't just the scribe. I can't contact anyone from Eden. Eden couldn't be contacted. It was strange, no matter how much the world had changed. Due to the constraints of the scenario, it was impossible to return to their original constellation context. It was frustrating. Gabriel sighed and sucked up water again. What? They were fighting and holding each other by the collar a few hours ago. In the distant place, Kim Dokja seemed to be stroking Yu Jonghyuk's head. Looking at this scene, Gabriel was reminded of Uriel and herself. It was different, but there was some resemblance. Comradeship. For a very short time, Gabriel seemed to understand why Uriel liked them. Eat the soil, Yu Jonghyuk. Yu Jonghyuk started to silently eat the soil. I was startled and smacked him in the back of the head. Why are you really eating it? I wanted to test it, but I didn't know he would actually follow my order. The Yu Jonghyuk I knew would have never done this. However, the regression depression had completely devoured his ego, and for the time being, Yu Jonghyuk was in a stupid state. Yu Jonghyuk looked up at me blankly. I sighed with some compassion. How good would it be if the usual you was so calm? You are better than the third-round bastard. Spit it out. I watched Yu Jonghyuk spitting out the soil and remembered another Yu Jonghyuk that I knew. I didn't know if he was okay. It would be nice if he hadn't lost his mind by the time I came back. I entrusted it to Yu Sanga, so I hoped things would turn out well. Now lie down there and get some rest. 1863rd Yu Jonghyuk. At my words, Yu Jonghyuk trudged towards the ruined building. I could see the sun setting in the distance. The sunset of the 95th scenario was still glowing. I looked at the haze and felt strangely peaceful. It was strange. In this horrible scenario, I could indulge in this appreciation. Kim Dok-ya needs to kill Yu Jong-hyuk. No, I didn't. Fortunately, there was no deadline for the scenario that secretive plotter gave me. I turned my head and saw Yu Jong-hyuk curled up with a foolish expression as he waited for my orders. Sleep. Yu Jong-hyuk understood my words and closed his eyes. Since the scenario started, Yu Jong-hyuk had never slept properly. Maybe this was the first sleep for Yu Jong-hyuk. It was the first sleep where he was freed from all his memories. Once Yu Jong-hyuk was completely asleep, I turned on my smartphone. The phone desktop contained the text of ways of survival as usual. However, there was something different this time. 3 ways to survive in a ruined world, TXT. What, wasn't it the 3rd revision? I suddenly got goosebumps. Was it because I came back to the original round? Then it changed back to the original text, not the revised one. I opened the file with a confused mind. The file was the original ways of survival that I knew. Maybe this was better. It was important to obtain information about this round if I wanted to think properly about the future. I quickly moved the screen to the 1863rd round and read all the information thoroughly. I lost Lee Hyun-sung in the 54th scenario. I read the story, read it and read it again. In the 67th scenario, Lee Sealwa was killed. He lost more people. Lee Jae died in the 78th scenario. The Yu Jong-hyuk of this round was completely alone. In fact, it wasn't only this round. In all of Yu Jong-hyuk's rounds, he had to leave alone. It was the same life even until the end. Poor guy. I didn't know the epilogue of Ways of Survival. The one thing I could be sure of was that Ways of Survival didn't have a happy ending. What if I didn't go back to the 3rd round? What if I stayed here and helped Yu Jong-hyuk of the last round clear the scenario? The 4th wall says, Kim Dok-ya that. I know. Yes. This was the trick hidden in secretive plotter's scheme. Perhaps secretive plotter expected this and gave me a scenario. It was why the scenario had no time limit. Kill Yu Jong-hyuk here and return to the original world. Or see the conclusion of the scenario with Yu Jong-hyuk here. This was the idea of the outer god. The laughable thing was that I was really shaken by the proposal. If I looked at the person here, I wouldn't see the ending I really wanted. But if I killed him here, the original Yu Jong-hyuk would disappear forever. My head hurt as I thought about it. If I wanted to kill Yu Jong-hyuk, I had to end Yu Jong-hyuk's regressions. However, his sponsor didn't speak and I didn't know the identity. I didn't know if it was fortunate or not. I sighed and scrolled through Ways of Survival again. Then I felt a cold feeling down my spine. The constellation Lily Pin of Aquarius is warning you. In the distance, the 2 flowers in the plastic bottles were shaking. It was a strong alarm. Was it an outer god? You've been hiding here, Yu Jong-hyuk. The moment I reflexively tried to turn around, I felt an eerie prediction. If I turned around now, I would die. I clearly had this feeling. It was a degree of stealth that could fool my constellation senses. It was clearly an unquantifiable existence. The presence was nearby. What are you? Are you Yu Jong-hyuk's companion? I got a sense of déjà vu from the voice. It was clearly a voice I knew. I turned my head slowly enough so that the enemy wouldn't feel threatened. Behind me was a woman with a familiar appearance. For a moment, my mind was awash with panic. How on earth? I hadn't thought about it. It was because this person was already dead in this round. Well, there is no need to know. I'll kill him anyway. The smiling Admiral Lee Jae smiled as she pointed the double dragon swords towards me. Chapter 289, Demon King Slayer 5. Destroy double dragon swords. At Lee Jae's words, magic power exploded from the 2 swords. Something resembling a blue dragon flew forward to tear at my neck. The double dragon swords. the strongest swords on the Korean peninsula and the relic of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare shown. I looked at the trajectory of the kendo and used way of the wind and electrification. You became smaller. Where did this incarnation come from? Admiral Lee Jihai. She survived up to the 95th scenario and was one of the 100 most powerful people in ways of survival. However, this was a story for when she was alive. If I remembered, in the original novel, the Lee Jihai of the 1863rd round had died long ago. Then who was the Lee Jihai in front of my eyes? I flew at an altitude that the double dragon swords couldn't reach me and shouted, "Lee Jihai, stop. I'm not an enemy." "What, you know me? Indeed, I'm a bit famous." She muttered shameless words and took a pose. I knew what this technique was. Instant kill. A great skill in ways of survival and a fearsome skill that killed any opponent with one blow. "Do you really think I can't cut a small bug like you?" I faced Lee Jihai's eyes and got goosebumps. Then Lee Jihai disappeared in an instant. An invisible sword was aimed at my neck, and I instinctively knew what would happen next. I cried out, "Yu Jonghyuk." A shadow as big as a house covered my eyes, and the strong sound of metal colliding was heard. Yu Jonghyuk blocked the sword by my side, and Lee Jihai swung the double dragon swords at Yu Jonghyuk. There was a small scratch on the blade of the heaven-shaking sword. Instant kill was a powerful technique, if only the opponent was Yu Jonghyuk. In the 1863rd round, Yu Jonghyuk was closer to a killing machine than anyone else. His decision couldn't be reversed. Once he decided to kill someone, he would kill them. Yu Jonghyuk broke through the threshold of transcendence and swung his sword. Lee Jihai was pushed by the power gap and crashed to the ground. Yu Jonghyuk, who held the upper hand, fell towards Lee Jihai. "Yu Jonghyuk, stop!" I shouted as there was a loud roar from the ground. I saw Lee Jihai falling in the dust and Yu Jonghyuk aiming at her. Yu Jonghyuk didn't stop at my words. Sparks of probability were around him. The regression depression was releasing. Happy memories, happy memories. Yu Jonghyuk paused. "Don't kill her, you can't kill her." I didn't know why this Lee Jihai was alive. However, there was one thing I knew. At the very least, Yu Jonghyuk shouldn't kill her. Lee Jihai rose from the dust and shouted, "What are you doing? Come on, Supreme King. This time I will kill you." It seemed this wasn't the first time Lee Jihai and Yu Jonghyuk had clashed. I couldn't understand no matter how I thought about it. It was strange that the dead Lee Jihai had survived, let alone become enemies with Yu Jonghyuk. "Wait, Lee Jihai, stop this. We have no intention of fighting." Lee Jihai didn't stop. Yu Jonghyuk's movements had become passive because of my order. Lee Jihai's blade cut the skin and blood flowed from Yu Jonghyuk. In the regression depression state, he couldn't take effective defense measures. However, if I gave an attack order, then he would rush at Lee Jihai like before. Shit. I was still maintaining electrification, so I climbed onto Yu Jonghyuk's shoulder and shouted at Lee Jihai, "Stop it, you brat. Yu Jonghyuk is your master." "Master? What is this bullshit? I've never had this monster as a master." Lee Jihai's eyes shone fiercely. "My master is a much more wonderful person." A 5-colored aura flowed from Lee Jihai's blade. I reflexively activated Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. No matter what the attack, it was easy to avoid if the direction was known. The skill activation is cancelled due to a lack of understanding about the person. Even if my understanding with Yu Jonghyuk was low, something was strange. Lee Jihai wasn't such a complicated human being. At the very least, the Lee Jihai that I knew. The character Lee Jihai has activated the stigma song of the sword LV. 10. Was she going to do this? Then I had an idea. I strongly gripped unbroken faith and invoked a stigma. The stigma song of the sword LV. 5 has been used. Lee Jihai's expression was shocked as she confirmed the 5 colors rising from my blade. She hadn't seemed to notice yet. In any case, this stigma relied on chance. Let's see who was luckier. Lee Jihai was the first player. Strings floated in the air and the writing of the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare flowed. The 10th day, clear skies. After eating breakfast, I went to work in Donghun, TL, central building where government affairs of the local area were performed. Bingo, I could see Li Jihai's expression distorting. Song of the Sword was a skill developed based on the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare's diary. If there was no luck, then an effect wouldn't be triggered. Then it was my turn. The 28th day, clear skis. I fired 10 rounds of 5 with the bow. In 5 rounds I hit all targets. In 2 rounds I hit 4 targets, and in 3 rounds I hit 3 targets. A fire bolt poured out from my blade. Li Jihai's eyes widened and she stepped back. The constellation, Maritime War God, is looking at you with astonishment. Li Jihai put out the fire, burning her collar, and screamed, "Who are you? How are you using my sponsor's stigma? Let's have a conversation. I will cut off your limbs, and then you will answer straight." Perhaps my attack had irritated her, but Li Jihai's expression became a bit serious. "I don't know what sponsor you have, but they will receive a big injury." Li Jihai pulled out a new sword. Surprisingly, it was an item that I also knew. The 4-yin demonic beheading sword. In all the rounds that I had read about, there was no memory of Li Jihai holding the 4-yin demonic beheading sword. "The Big Dipper, give me strength." At Li Jihai's cry, several stars shone in the sky. The Big Dipper originally consisted of 7 constellations. However, this was the latter scenario, and only 4 stars shone because some had died. Dazzling light poured from the 4-yin demonic beheading sword as it evolved into a star relic. It was obvious what Li Jihai was going to do. The 4-yin demonic beheading sword had the terrible power to break the link between sponsor and incarnation for a short time. By the way, Li Jihai's expression towards me was strange. There are no links." Of course, I was now one with my incarnation body. The constellation, Demon King of Salvation, is looking at incarnation, Li Jihai. The astonished Li Jihai took 1 step back. Then it was my turn. I pulled out the same sword that Li Jihai was holding. How? How on earth? I leapt from Yu Zhanghyuk's shoulders and held onto the 4-yin demonic beheading sword that let out a dazzling brilliance. The moment that the careless Li Jihai's eyes widened, the trajectory of way of the wind moved over her head. There were explosive sparks, and Li Jihai shrieked with pain. Alec! The star of the Maritime War God defending her flickered. I backed away. "The constellation, Maritime War God, is angry at you." I understood. I had been planning to break the Maritime War God's link to Li Jihai in order to neutralize Li Jihai, but it failed. Li Jihai's eyes turned white. The Duke of Loyalty and Warfare of the 95th scenario was about to descend in front of my eyes. I hurriedly checked the water in the surrounding area. Everything was over if the ghost fleet was summoned here. The tributary of Qingyechen was rising in the air. TL note, a stream. There were sparks as the illusions of the ghost fleet started to appear one by one. Damn it, I reflexively looked at the plastic bottles behind me. To be precise, it was at the flowers plugged in. Should I borrow the Archangel's power? Would they lend their strength? The Li Jihai in front of me was evil. "Duke of Loyalty and Warfare, please stop." Then a serious man's voice was heard. A bear-like man's hand pointed at Li Jihai's shoulder. "The constellation, Maritime War God, is furious. The constellation, Master of Steel, is sending out a cold gaze." It was a battle between constellations. It was the Duke of Loyalty and Warfare who stepped down first. The ghost fleet's illusions disappeared and Li Jihai collapsed on the ground. Then a man emerged from behind Li Jihai. "You were here as well." I stared blankly at the man. I didn't know how many times I would be surprised today. "What are you doing, Hyunsung Ajasi? He is on Yu Zhanghyuk's side." "That hasn't been figured out yet." The 25th or the 95th scenario. The 3rd round or the 1863rd round. Li Hyunsung was the Li Hyunsung I knew. I barely managed to hold back a few tears. "I am Li Hyunsung. Can I ask for your name?" "I am Kim Dokja." Li Hyunsung seemed to have suffered a lot, and I could see a thick scar on his forehead. There were countless scars on his tight steel-like muscles. I tried to calm my confused mind. Like Lee Jihai, Lee Hyun-sung was a person who couldn't be alive right now. In the 1863rd round, Yu Jonghyuk lost all his companions. Lee Hyun-sung said, "Dr. SSI, we have no intention of being hostile to you. We just need Yu Jonghyuk over there." It was a nice smile, but I could read the calm behind it without much difficulty. This Lee Hyun-sung had made it through 94 scenarios. If I threatened him even a little bit, Lee Hyun-sung would try to remove me in a more thorough and effective way than Lee Jihai. I inquired in a calm tone, "Why do you need Yu Jonghyuk?" "He has the key to clearing the scenario." I knew what the 95th scenario was and could see that Lee Hyun-sung's words were true. By the way, that wasn't the only thing I was curious about. "How many people are in your group?" "Huh. If you have reached the 95th scenario, then you must have a group." My group is Jihai. If you lie to me one more time, I won't trust your words in the future." Lee Hyun-sung's expression hardened. I continued speaking, "Are you the leader? Is it Lee Hyun-sung SSI?" Lee Hyun-sung's eyes were shaking. Indeed, he was a man who wasn't good at hiding his emotions, no matter how much time passed. The blurred eyes gave me confidence. Lee Hyun-sung and Lee Jihai were in the same group, but they weren't the leader. This 1863rd round wasn't the 1863rd round I knew. My head calmed down because a definite hypothesis was in it. In hindsight, many things could be understood. My understanding of Yu Jonghyuk was strangely low. The reason why Lee Jihai and Lee Hyun-sung survived when they should be dead. There was someone else besides me. Someone who wasn't in the original novel was active in this round. "If you want Yu Jonghyuk, please guide me to your leader." Lee Hyun-sung shook his head. "It is difficult. I don't know what you and Yu Jonghyuk intend." "You don't have to be so vigilant. As you can see, I'm weak and the current Yu Jonghyuk is safe. He listens to my words pretty well." "What a piece of shit. How can that bastard listen to anyone?" Lee Jihai had a pretty good understanding of Yu Jonghyuk. Lee Hyun-sung was also full of disbelief. "Kim Dokja-sasai, are you Yu Jonghyuk's companion?" "Companion? That's right. I don't believe it. I know that Yu Jonghyuk has no companions." "I'll show you the evidence, Yu Jonghyuk." Yu Jonghyuk looked at me. "Pick up your sword." Yu Jonghyuk picked up the heaven-shaking sword. Lee Jihai cried out, "Only that much." "Yu Jonghyuk, come here." As Yu Jonghyuk approached, the terrified Lee Jihai hid behind Lee Hyun-sung. "Hyun-sung Ajasi, be careful, he's going to attack." "Yu Jonghyuk, sit down." Yu Jonghyuk sat down. Lee Jihai and Lee Hyun-sung's mouths were wide open. It was truly amazing. The Yu Jonghyuk they knew would never do something like this. I felt a bit sorry for him, but it should be fine since I was beaten up a lot yesterday. Lee Jihai and Lee Hyun-sung looked like they were watching a circus, and I smiled at them. "What else do you want to try? Should I feed him dirt?" They glanced at each other after hearing my words. Lee Jihai waved her hands and Lee Hyun-sung gave a deep sigh. "Follow me." Their base wasn't far away. However, due to the unnamed things that appeared along the way, it took longer than I thought. It took around 2 hours as we wandered around the ruins avoiding the monsters. In the distance, a building that seemed to be their stronghold appeared. "This is the place." There I met a person wearing the same coat as me. Chapter 290, Demon King Slayer 6. "Hey, Lee Jihai." A man waved towards us while speaking in a typical gangster tone. The white coat hanging from his shoulder was unmistakably the Infinite Dimension space coat. Thus, it was the same coat as mine. The constellation Lily Pin of Aquarius is frowning. The constellation Commander of the Red Cosmos is showing displeasure. The flowers were shaking in my coat's inner pocket. This guy was the leader. The surging shock made me momentarily dizzy. I reflexively looked back at Yu Jonghyuk, but I couldn't share my shock with Yu Jonghyuk, who had become a fool. I looked back at the man again. He had a bandage wrapped around one hand, and he was half leaning against a door as he laughed while pushing back white hair. Kim Dok-ya is an idiot. No matter how I thought about it, he couldn't be the leader. In the first place, this coat was something that could be easily obtained by the 95th scenario. Lee Ji-hai frowned. Kim Nam-woon. Yes. I told you to pretend not to know me. Now get lost. I have to go in. No. Kim Nam-woon faltered in front of Lee Ji-hai's words. Lee Ji-hai glared at Kim Nam-woon like he was pathetic. In addition, don't steal Master's coat. I'll kill you. Don't you want to wear it once? Lee Ji-hai slammed open the door and entered the building. As if overwhelmed by Lee Ji-hai, Kim Nam-woon's gaze followed after Lee Ji-hai's back. Come to think of it, their relationship was exactly the same as it was in the original novel. There were many new things that emerged in my mind. Lee Ji-hai, Lee Hyun-sung, and Kim Nam-woon. Curiosity and an unknown fear coiled deep in my heart. What happened in this round? As I was distracted for a moment, Kim Nam-woon looked at me. Who are you? That coat looks like mine. The character Kim Nam-woon is showing vigilance towards you. I remembered the first time I met him. Kim Nam-woon's head was blown up on the subway. If Kim Nam-woon was still alive, would it have felt like this? Hey soldier, who is this person? Fuck, it is Yoo Jong-hyuk. Kim Nam-woon discovered Yoo Jong-hyuk behind me and quickly stepped back. The constellation, abyssal black flame dragon, is baring his teeth. Delusional demon Kim Nam-woon. In this turn, the abyssal black flame dragon had picked his original incarnation. Yoo Jong-hyuk raised his head at the hostility directed towards him, and Kim Nam-woon flinched. You are still cool. Did you come to fight, Yoo Jong-hyuk? Kim Nam-woon's hands were trembling and I couldn't tell if he was excited or afraid. Maybe it was both. It was Lee Hyun-sung who blocked the atmosphere from becoming worse. Nam-woon, these people didn't come to fight. What? Then why did they come? That. I stepped inside the building without listening to their conversation. Wait a minute, Kim Dok-ja SI. Lee Hyun-sung's voice was heard behind me, but my desire to check the interior of the building was greater. If my idea was correct, this building was the very building that Yoo Jong-hyuk envisioned in the early rounds. I entered and a spacious room appeared. It was the size of a warehouse of a large company. From a large door next to me, a bed carrying a patient rushed in. There was one emergency patient. Don't play around and move the patient over here. I quickly pushed the bed over. There were people in white coats gathered. A story pack, bring a story pack. This patient is allergic to animal-related stories. They were all trained in medical skills. The one leading them was a woman wearing small, rimless glasses. A woman looked at the patient's pierced stomach and thighs and asked me about the details of the patient. Where did this patient get hurt? I stared quietly at her. A woman who was called Poisoner or Righteous, depending on the rounds. She was Yoo Jong-hyuk's lover in some rounds and enemies in others. I wore a white coat and was mistaken to be a doctor. I looked at the patient's details and answered. Perhaps he was hit by an unnamed thing. It seems that the tentacles contaminated the wound. Indeed, Lee Sealwa slowly blinked at me. The character Lee Sealwa has received a strange feeling from you. Who are you? Who should I say? No, she wouldn't know no matter what I said. Hey Ajasi, what are you doing? Come along quickly, bring Yoo Jong-hyuk with you. I left the bemused Lee Ji-hai and walked up the stairs with Yoo Jong-hyuk towards Lee Ji-hai. The inner walls of the building were made of a transparent material, so the structure of the whole building came into view as I climbed up. Patients were constantly pouring into the emergency room on the first floor. They were incarnations injured by confronting outer gods or constellations. It wasn't strange. Such tragedies had become commonplace in the 95th scenario. I remembered the 95th scenario of the 1863rd round. I turned my attention outside the building and saw the ruined scenery of Seoul. There were nebulae emitting smoke and sleeping outer gods. Above them were dark crystals covering the sky. Apocalypse Dragon Sealing Ball. This seal was the core and goal of the 95th scenario. Gather 5 scattered keys and release the Apocalypse Dragon. Once the apocalypse dragon was released, destruction would come to the planet, and those who completed the scenario would automatically go to the next scenario. However, this 1863rd round was different from the 1863rd round I knew. A first-grade monster has appeared on the riverside. Radio waves were spreading through the building. As we climbed the stairs, I could see the scene in the Situation Room that had bright panels shining. I strongly recommend that you withdraw the forces dispatched to Siacho. The Archangel of Fire has appeared. Have found the Holy Sword Escalon in no one. We are currently engaged with dozens of unnamed things. Please send support. Numerous messages came and went, and one person was managing everything. He had curly hair, a boy wearing a headset with dark circles under his eyes. No, he wasn't a boy anymore. I looked at him with a strange feeling. Hermit King of Shadows, Han Dong-hoon, the child who didn't become a king in the round I lived, sat in a place where his talent could shine. White light emerged from Han Dong-hoon's fingertips, and has completed the calculations quickly. G1SSI and her H-Waring and Maitreya Cha Sang-kyung will be in charge of the known area. Incarnations of Olympus must be hit first before they attack. Must secure the Holy Sword Escalon. Hurry. Familiar names were heard in the messages. Min Ji-won and Cha Sang-kyung, those who had the Lady of the Brocade Sleep and One-Eyed Maitreya as their constellations survived to the 95th scenario. Why are you looking like that? Lee Jihai watched me from the side and poked me. I hesitated to answer before telling her honestly, it is more amazing than I thought. Lee Jihai was surprised by my answer and hesitated for a moment. Well, my master is really great. It is all thanks to master. That person did it alone. Lee Jihai, Lee Hyun-sung, Lee Sealhwa, Min Ji-won, Cha Sang-kyung, Han Dong-hoon, in addition, Kim Nam-woon. All the people who should have died in the original 1863rd round were alive. Furthermore, their level of their armed forces was high, and the size of their force was formidable. In a sense, it was better than the third round that I lived. No, it was the level I had always hoped for. My head throbbed. Someone I didn't know had changed the history of the 1863rd round. The tragedy that should have happened didn't happen, and humanity was fighting. Yu Jonghyuk hadn't lost any colleagues yet. Maybe I didn't have to go back to the third round. I could see the proper ending here. Lee Jihai told me, we will go to the end of the scenario with Master. The moment I heard this, an eerie and cold sensation filled my chest. Clearly, there was everything present in this landscape, apart from one thing. I turned around and saw Yu Jonghyuk standing with a blank expression. I couldn't tell whether or not Yu Jonghyuk was looking at this scenery. I didn't know if he was grieving or rejoicing. All I could know was about myself. Why do you hate Yu Jonghyuk? It is because he is a bad guy. Why is he a bad guy? Are you really asking because you do know? I don't know. That person won't hesitate to kill for his own goals. It was true, I asked, is that all? Do you need another reason? That's right, maybe this reason alone was sufficient, however. Kim Daksha thought, you don't know why Yu Jonghyuk did those things. I took a deep breath. This wasn't Lee Jihai's fault. No one had done anything wrong. Rather, everyone was doing so well that perhaps it made me angry. Who is the master you are talking about? Go to the top floor of the building. Take the elevator over there. I nodded and moved to the elevator. Yu Jonghyuk followed behind me and Lee Jihai pulled out her sword. Leave Yu Jonghyuk here. It was as expected. I alternated looking between Yu Jonghyuk and Lee Jihai. I heard a dinging sound as the elevator arrived. I approached Yu Jonghyuk before boarding the elevator. Yu Jonghyuk, think happy thoughts and wait. Do you understand? Yu Jonghyuk nodded. However, if someone tries to harm you, remember the memories of the most unfortunate days. What are you doing now? Lee Jihai felt a strange nuance from my words. I ignored her and got on the elevator. Hey, answer me. What did you mean by what you said to Yu Jonghyuk? I knew how important this place was to Lee Jihai. Naturally, someone's precious thing was a weakness. If you're curious, then try touching him, although I wouldn't if I was you. The door of the elevator closed. 345. Gravity increased as the number of floors of the building changed. The numbers changed while my brain moved faster than ever. Who was it? There were a few potential candidates, those who could read information of the future and change the future. Anna Croft and some constellations of a certain nebula. However, none of them could do something like this. No matter how good they were still part of the original novel. It wasn't possible to make a change to the original events with their power alone. 9, 10, 11. Then there was only one answer. Besides me, there was another being outside the original. Still, there were some weird points. Even if it was an existence outside the original, there was no reason they could progress so perfectly to the 95th scenario. In a way, it resembled me. At this moment, I got goosebumps. Don't tell me, there were the Yu Jonghyuks in other rounds. If so, what about me? Ding! I shook my head the moment the elevator made a sound. According to the revised version of Ways of Survival, I didn't exist in Yu Jonghyuk's other rounds. After a few more rounds, there was no me. If there was, the revision itself would be different. Thus, the existence likely wasn't me. The one thing that bothered me was secretive plotter. Actually, there was another person beside you who made a covenant. The door opened. Then a room reminiscent of a hotel suite appeared. It was a dim room where the fire was extinguished. There was a soft carpeted floor. I saw a figure sitting on the chair. You are the one Lee Hyun-sung mentioned. Along with the voice, a silver light lit up the room. The first thing I saw in my dim vision was the sword on the table. The sword boasted a pure white luster. I knew this sword well. It was because it was my unbroken faith. As I looked at the sword, the person sitting on the chair spoke. It is a good sword. As the name implies, it doesn't break. I know I'm using it too. Really? The person sitting on the chair was covered in a black half-mask. I stared at the eyes visible beyond the half-mask. It had changed by the winds of the scenario, but there was no doubt. The exclusive skill, character list, is activated. Originally, it was a skill that shouldn't work. I used it a few times and I knew it well. Then why did I try it again? There is too much information about this person. Character list is converted to character summary list. Maybe it was because I hoped it wouldn't work. I looked at the information in front of me and felt somewhat heavy. Maybe she didn't know. What terrible loneliness did I feel right now? Okay, where did you come from? I've never heard the name Kim Dokja. I should have noticed it from the beginning. She was the only person who knew the existence of Ways of Survival apart from me. She was the only one who could have done this in the first place. But how? It was pointless to ask. There was a part I needed to know from now on. However, there was one thing I could know. This wasn't the one from the third round that I knew. I looked at the woman with a bob cut and asked, "Are you Han Soo-young's avatar?"